Welcome to Lost and Found No More Secrets with DNA Angels. If you're new to the world of DNA Angels, we are a search angel nonprofit organization on a mission to bring closure and connection to individuals seeking to identify their biological parents via their ancestry DNA results. Whether they are NPE, meaning not parent expected, or non paternal event, donor conceived, adopted, or they just never know who their biological parent is. Our goal is to provide guidance and support every step of the way. Join us as we embark on journeys of discovery, compassion, and the profound importance of knowing one's roots. My name is Heidi, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. As one of the team lead genetic genealogists at DNA Angels, I've had the privilege of being part of incredible journeys of self discovery and reunion. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our co host today, Laura Schultz. Laura is a dynamic individual with a heart of gold and a passion for helping others. She's a highly respected colleague known for her dedication and expertise, particularly in her role as a search angel. Whether reuniting families separated by circumstance or uncovering hidden truths, Laura approaches each case with unwavering determination and compassion. It's truly an honor to have her join us on the show today. Hello, Laura. How are you?
Hi, Heidi. Thanks for having me back.
I loved having you as a co-host. The last show. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
So, yeah, as you know, we like to talk about a topic related to our either DNA or to our community.
Hmm.
And I was thinking today, I was actually driving down the road, and I like to listen to podcasts
Hmm.
or I talk on the phone whenever I'm driving down the road. And I was listening to, we also have a podcast on Spotify, same name, you can find us there. And I was listening to Kirk's story, and we found him a half brother match. Now, Kirk was the foundling just a
Yep.
few episodes back. And I had him upload his DNA, and he had a half brother match on FTDNA. And when I was listening to it today, I thought back and I thought about all the cases that I pick up, and they've been searching for biological parents for years. And it's very uncommon that somebody has uploaded their DNA. And so I thought it would be good for the viewers to hear about the ability to do that. And so, Laura, can you talk a little bit about what it is means to get your raw DNA uploaded and how you do that?
Absolutely. You know, I know you and we kind of think about it like you're fishing in lots of different ponds. So you want to just get your DNA out there. And there are the pay test. Obviously we do Amazon. um, the ones that we go to, you take your ancestry tests and you upload it to some of the free ones. So that would be Family Tree DNA, GEDmatch, and MyHeritage. I actually try to get my clients to do it right away, even before if I find out that there's any kind of a delay, only because sometimes they do take a little bit to process, and we all have circumstances. And one time I was working on a case for a good solid week, and it was MyHeritage was taking so long, and then all of a sudden MyHeritage popped up with a half sibling, and you're like, oh,
Yay.
it's solved. You never know. You never know. And another time I'd worked on a case a good 9 months. It was actually one of my very first cases. I worked forever on it, transferred it to long-term team. Just a few weeks after that, some two sisters uploaded to Family Tree DNA, and they happened to be like first cousins. So again, like you never know. And I get a lot of questions, I'm sure you do too, like how long is this going to take? It's just like, like when you're selling a house and people are like, oh, it just takes one buyer. It's the same thing. It just takes one
It sure
DNA
has.
test to figure it out. I also like to use some of the free matches. The Family Tree DNA is what I use a lot for this. Uh, when you're trying, if you have an adopted case and you don't know which side is which, um, and then if you can figure out like which side is the paternal, trying to go back even further, a
Mhm.
lot of a family tree I feel is very good because it has the X matches. Then you can go through and sort the
Right,
X matches if you can figure out which side's the paternal
right.
side to like hop on the grandma side. So there's a lot of little tricks in there. So I just you know,
Right.
that,
And they did, there's no charge
no
to
charge.
upload. So what do
Right.
you have to lose?
Right. And now with MyHeritage, it's great because I can take a client's into my own, to our
Paid account.
our paid accounts. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling here. Um, and then we can see even more who they match, and that really helps build out the trees. So
Right.
I like it, and that's the first thing I say to do. Did you do your homework? Did you do that? It's
And so you can, if you tested on Ancestry and 23andMe, you can upload your raw DNA to those sites that Laura was just talking about. But you can't upload from Ancestry to 23andMe or vice versa. So
right.
you have to either invest in one of those kits before you can do the free uploads.
Absolutely. And we do like to use Ancestry because it has good trees and such a big database there. But for hard cases, sometimes I'll even say, like, if you can afford it, go ahead and the 23andMe test, just because you never know. You never know who's going to be popping up
You're
where.
right. Sometimes
Yeah,
it just takes that one match to
it does.
Mhm.
And you don't want people to like get discouraged. Like, well, you just got to kind of wait. We call it sibling season and some of those
Right.
things, when after Christmas or Mother's Day, when there's all the sales. And actually right now there's a huge sale. So it's like, kind of just wait for those things to pop up. But again, it's the luck of the draw.
Right. So I want to mention this before I forget. We do a drawing at the end of the show. So please stay tuned and you can be entered into our drawing to win a prize. And I will tell you how to do that at the end of the show. Are you ready to get started with Vicki's story, our client for the day?
I'm excited to hear the whole story. I've heard bits and pieces, but not the whole thing. So
I'm gonna give a little bit of an introduction to her story. Today we have the privilege to sit down with Vicki, whose life story reads like a compelling novel of mystery and revelation. For 50 years, Vicki harbored a persistent curiosity about her birth parents. Questions about her origins, her likeness, and her medical history swirled in Vicki's mind, driving her to seek answers against the backdrop of a loving upbringing. Raised in a warm and financially secure home with two older brothers, Vicki was cherished by her adoptive family. Yet, the lingering curiosity about her roots remained, prompting attempts to uncover her past. However, fears of hurting her adoptive family's feelings and the daunting prospect of rejection from her birth family often put Vicki's quest on hold. Fast forward to a pivotal moment a couple of decades later when Vicki, now a mother herself, grappled with the reality of only being able to provide half of her children's medical history due to her lack of information. Fueled by a desire to bridge this gap and find closure, Vicki plunged into the world of DNA testing. With DNAngel support, Vicki's search intensified, yielding tantalizing clues about her father's musical career, but leaving the identity of her mother shrouded in uncertainty. Despite moments of doubt and hesitation, Vicki's determination never wavered. She reached out to potential relatives, each response fueling a glimmer of hope amidst the sea of unanswered questions. Then, a breakthrough. A kind voice on the other end of the line confirming what seemed improbable. Vicki had found her birth mother. The flood of emotions that followed, from elation to nervousness to cautious optimism, ushered Vicki into a new chapter of her life, one marked by reconciliation and newfound family ties. Reuniting with her birth mother and extended family brought a sense of closure and belonging that Vicki had long yearned for. Now, armed with the answers she sought in the assurance of her birth mother's love, Vicki embarks on a journey of discovery. Let's bring Vicki on stage here.
Hello.
Hello, Vicki. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, Vicki, as always, let's start from the beginning. Share with me a little bit about your family structure and what it was like growing up for you.
I was raised in a very loving home. I had two older brothers and my mother and father. And they always told me from as early of an age that I could understand that I was adopted.
Mhm.
And I always knew, and they were very open about it. And I was the only blonde in a family of brunettes. And so it was very obvious. but I always had a curiosity. I always thought, and my mom would even go so far as to say, I think your birth mother had blonde hair. I think she was, your father was a musician, but that's all we really knew. And I thought, okay. And I knew that she had tried to raise me for 2 years on her own.
Your birth mother had tried.
My birth mother tried to raise me for 2 years on her own before she decided to drop me off at a children's home. And that's all I ever knew and so I always had questions. I always wondered, and, but I never really thought to do anything about it. I was always worried about hurting my adoptive family's feelings. I didn't want my parents to think they weren't good enough, that I needed more, so I always just kind of would brush those aside and just kind of, think, oh, I'm not going to worry about it. But they just kept festering, and the older I got, the more they percolated, and the more I thought, gosh, I just really kind of want to know more, and I got into like my 20s and it was still kind of there. And I got married. And then when I started having my own children, I started thinking, I don't have medical history, which means my children only have half of their medical history. And that was kind of a catalyst also for me embarking on this journey. And so I started, when social media became a thing, I started digging around on Facebook and things like that. I had a friend that helped me, and we really searched, and we just couldn't find anything. My adoptive father had written down, this is kind of an interesting story. When I was dropped off at the children's home, I had an aunt that worked at the children's home. So we kind of had kind of a connection and stuff. And my adoptive father apparently jotted down a name on a piece of paper that he saw on the desk when they were going through all the paperwork to adopt me. And he hung on to that, passed it on to his sister, who then passed it on to my oldest brother. And my adoptive father and his sister had passed, but this name was still there. And so I searched the name and everything. I even went so far as to message a couple of women on like Facebook, thinking they kind of have the same name that we think.
Was it a real common name? I mean, how hard?
Yeah, it was pretty common, which was kind of surprising. And we weren't 100% sure of the last name, and my dad had horrible handwriting, so we're kind of guessing, but and I just can't imagine now when I sit here and think about those women that got these messages from me saying, hey, and I never popped in and said, hey, are you my mother? I just kind of came in with, I'm searching for my birth mother, and your name I think is very similar. Did you by chance? And I never got any response and stuff, so I just kind of put it to rest. And then finally, enough time went by and I thought, gosh darn it, I just wish I knew more. And I thought, I'm going to do 23andMe because that came out. And I was very apprehensive though, you guys. I was really nervous about a DNA website because I'm kind of one of those people. I get kind of scared with computer stuff and information being out there. And, I really went back and forth. And do I really want to do this? Do I not? And so finally, I guess about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I bit the bullet and I did 23andMe, and it yielded a half brother. Oh. So I thought, holy smokes, this really works. This DNA stuff it really works. And so I got super excited, and he actually messaged me first. And he said, hey sis, with a question mark. And I was just kind of like, oh my goodness, is this really happening? And we started chatting, and we found out that we were related on our father's side. And he didn't know much about him. He also was adopted. So, and he had met his birth mother, and she had passed. So he didn't really have a name either. So it was great that I had the half brother, but I still didn't really have any information per se, because he didn't really have a lot of information. So we've been corresponding ever since, and it's been really great and fun. And he's about 9 years younger than I am and stuff. And so I kind of just settled with that. I thought, okay, well, this is the best I'm going to get. And I'm happy to at least have known that he's out there, and that's all good. And a couple of years went by, and gosh darn it, those things just kept poking at me. They just kept coming back at me with, but don't you want to know more? And don't you want your medical history? Don't you want your daughter's? So I kept going around, and I talked to a friend of mine, and I've known her since I was 2, and she remembers the day my parents brought me home when I was 2. She's a couple years older than me. And she knew of my journey, and she knew I'd been on this. And, she said, Vicki, I really think you need to do more DNA tests, because I think the more you do, the better off your odds are going to be. So I hem-hawed. And for Christmas was it, I guess, not this past Christmas, but a year ago, my husband bought me Ancestry.com. And it sat on my dresser for 4 months because, again, I wanted to do it, but I was scared. I just was unsure of what was I going to find? Was it even going to do any good? This person seemed to be a needle in a haystack. And I kept getting all kinds of 4th cousins and 3rd cousins and stuff on 23andMe. And I thought, is this really going to do anything? And finally, after 4 months, I said, oh, what the heck? And I just did it. And it popped up a half brother and a half sister on Ancestry.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So this is a thing. So immediately I messaged both of them. And I believe it was on St. Patrick's Day a year ago. And I try to be real non-invasive. I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. I don't want to make anybody do anything they don't want to do. But hey, if you're interested in chatting, I would love to talk to you. If not, I completely understand. No worries. So immediately my half sister messaged me back, and I could tell she was elated because she had done Ancestry.com looking for siblings. She knew about her birth mother. She lived with her birth mother, actually. So, and she knew a little bit about her birth father from her mother, but still not a lot. But she also knew he was a musician. So now I'm getting really intrigued. Like, okay, so this guy's really a musician, and the half brother never replied, but I thought, well, that's okay. But we found out he was just a year older than me. My half sister's just a year younger than me, and we all shared the same father. So I thought that, and then there's the half brother from a few years ago. So I'm thinking, okay, that's a lot of people, but all right. And my half sister said,
it sounds like Papa was a Rolling Stone.
I used to joke, actually. That's so funny you say it, because I used to joke and say, is this guy Mick Jagger? Like, who is this guy? Because what is happening? And you guys, she told me that there was another sister, an older one.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, how many of us are there? I mean, I just can't even fathom. So
y'all look alike at all?
According to my birth mom, I look very much like he does.
Oh,
she said awesome. I look a lot like he does, or like he did. Right. He was blonde, and he was, So my half sister and I, then we just hit it off, and we just started talking a lot, texting, sending pictures. It was a lot of fun. And she's like, but her mother had since passed. She's like, so I can't really get us a lot more information, except for what I have. And I just have a little on him, because apparently the kind of story I was getting was that these, it seemed to be like a lot of these birth moms were kind of, into kind of a lifestyle of having fun and stuff like that. And so I thought, well, I'm sure that's my, probably the people that, he was with and stuff. And maybe I'll never find her, and who knows. But then my half sister, so her name is Dana, and she said, have you ever heard of the DNAngels? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm so new to this DNA thing, and I'm such a chicken. I don't know anything. And she said, girl, you've got to message these people. And she said, because they are miracle workers. And I think if anybody's going to find your birth mother, it's going to be them. So I went through the screening process through you guys, and they got to work, and I was blown away by how quickly information was coming in. But it was all on birth dad's side, all of it, just tons of information coming in about him and the bands he was in. And I had pictures of the bands he was in, and he was in a book called Garage Bands of Memphis. And so pictures of him in there. And I mean, so it turns out he actually was in a fairly productive band, and sat in, I think, with some more famous artists. He was a guitarist, so that kind of explained a lot why we had all these half siblings kind of running around. But of course, I'm sitting here going, but there's still a big gap between my youngest half brother. So how many are peppered inside of that gap,
Right.
But birth mom was who I really was going for. She kept me for 2 years, and I just kept thinking there's something there. Like, I after having children myself, I could not imagine walking either one of them in at the age of 2 to a home and saying, I want a better life for her. I want a better life for them.
Really
And
selfless, huh? Really selfless.
super selfless.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine. And so it took a couple months, and my angel was like, for some reason, people on your birth mom's side are not testing. She's like, we just cannot get to the place we need to be to put your tree together because they're just not testing. And I was kind of like, okay. I mean, you know what? This is great. I got a really fun story about birth dad, and the half siblings and I make a lot of jokes, and we have a really good time with it, So, because, I mean, and he sounds really interesting, and I would love to meet him one day and just say, hi, tell me about your musical career, if nothing else. But he's still not the one I was after. And my angel really encouraged me and said, I really think you should upload your information. So this was interesting. You guys were talking about this to MyHeritage. I really think it could help us out. And again, I drug my feet. I took a while before I actually did it. But, my family, my friends were like, you've gone this far. It's already out there. Right. You might as well, what's one more? All right, fine. So I do one more. And sure enough, it puts I think it was a cousin to my grandfather, my birth grandfather, on mom's side.
Yay.
And that's all my angel needed.
Well, you had a last name to work with. So
I'm sorry?
You had a last name to work with, right? So
I did. And again, it wasn't for sure that was the last name, but it was. So the bottom line is the middle initial was the only thing that was off. The middle name was the only thing that my adoptive father wrote down incorrectly, but her first name was correct and her last name.
Wow.
And my angel messages me and says, do you have a minute? I think I have some information for you. And I will never forget that day. And she said, I think we found her. And she has a sister and she has a brother, and none of them are married. None of them have children. This is why they were so hard to find, because there's no paper trail. And she said, and the name is exactly the same. The middle name is just one letter off from what your adoptive father had put down.
And she's alive. So
she's alive. They're both alive.
Wow.
She, and the DNA angels are so wonderful. They gave me all the possible information on her. And they're like, the rest is up to you. And you can call her. You could try to email her. You could do. So now I'm like in a whole new place and of excitement and nervousness and just so many feelings, you guys, so many, because then I'm composing these emails and sending them to the top 2 emails that I get. And I'm thinking, though, but what am I inviting into my life? Was one of the things that pops in there. You just don't know. Mm-hmm. Am I going to blow up her life? Am I going to come in and devastate this person who has spent the better part of 50 years, just living her life knowing she gave, hopefully, her daughter a better life? Am I going to come in and just destroy this by stepping in? Is it going to open up too many wounds? So I was really worried about that. And I thought, what?
I'm sure you wanted to give her the opportunity. You wanted the opportunity to tell her thank you. Because you guys ended up with such amazing parents who gave you an amazing life. So I'm sure, I'm not adopted, but I'm putting myself in your shoes, and I would really want my birth mom to know, you made the right decision.
Well, yes, that you're a parent, because you could see the sacrifice that she had to do,
right?
The good of you, and that's really powerful.
It is, and I sent an email to the 2 top emails, and there was no reply. And I thought, maybe they weren't her emails. Maybe she's not really up on that kind of stuff. Or maybe she got it and she thought, whoa, I put this to rest over 50 years ago. I can't do this, you know? So I got no response. Calling her, I felt like that was too invasive. I did not want to put her on the spot like that. You know, I was so concerned about doing something to her to hurt her. And I didn't want to do that. She didn't deserve that. So I ended up doing snail mail. I wrote a letter, and I had to read it to a few of my best friends before I even sent it in the mail, because I just said things like, hey, if you're interested in responding to this, if you gave up a daughter, at the age of 2 for adoption, I would love to chat with you. If nothing else, I would love medical history. We don't have to have a relationship. If you could just call me, email me, text me, and say, yes, this was you, or no, this is not her. Right. So I at least know to stop looking or to keep looking. I just left it really open-ended. And I said, I don't want to do anything you don't want to do, but if this is you, if you could just at least let me know, yes or no, and left all my contact information. And a day went by and I got nothing, or well, not more than a day. It was like a week actually. And after I mailed it, so I know it takes time for mail and stuff, sure. And I came home one day and I had a message, and she said, I'm going to try not to get emotional, but she said, I received a letter in the mail, and if you were born on this date, and I just said the year, I didn't say the date, and you're looking for your mother, I think you found her. Aww. And amazing. Yeah, and I sat there and I held
What did you do in that moment?
I held the phone, I started shaking, and I started crying because I thought
you heard her voice. You heard her voice.
This is real life.
Yeah.
And she called me, and this is real, and this is 50 years of wondering, who is this person? Why did she do what she did? What, I want to thank her. And I sat there and held the phone. And after I calmed myself and gained some composure, I went ahead and I called her back, and she didn't answer.
Oh no.
And I thought, she changed her mind. Oh. She thought, wait, I'm not ready for this. And I had to go to bed that night without knowing. And
how did you sleep? How on earth did you go to bed?
I mean, it was awful because, I really had it in my head that she had changed her mind. Oh. And but she hadn't. And she called me the next day. Yay. And we chatted for a long time. And she said she was an open book and that I could ask her anything I wanted to. And she was so open. And I got all my medical history in that first phone call. Wow. And so many stories. I got family history. I had so many answers to all my questions just in that one first phone call. And
how far away does she live from you?
4 hours. Oh. And that's about it. So we chatted for all of, I think 2 months. I think 2 months, if even. And she came to visit. Oh. And it was pretty amazing, and it's funny because she came and she stayed at a hotel closest to my house. And because again, though, too, I was kind of nervous, and I'm like, but even though we were talking on the phone stuff, I still was like, but I still don't really know this person. I still don't really know her. I'm not really sure what to do. And I was thinking she'd come for a weekend. Well, she came for 4 days, and it was just like, she just couldn't wait to see me because we were going to meet at a certain time. And she called that morning and she said, okay, well, we're in the car. So whenever you're ready, and I was like, oh, I'm still in my pajamas. And I'm like, this was not how I envisioned meeting my birth mother for the first time in my PJ. So I'm quick running around the house trying to pick it up real quick. And I'm trying to change. And I'm just like manic. And You know,
she wouldn't
and
have recognized any. She wouldn't have even cared.
You know, and it's so funny because one of my girlfriends said you could have been wearing a paper bag.
Yeah.
I don't think she would have cared. You know,
She's seen in your birthday suit. What else is there, right?
Right, exactly. So, so she showed up, and we had some wonderful days together, and I was able to drive her by the home where I grew up and the church where I got married and where I work, and just show her a little bit of my life. And the day she left, we hugged for a very long time, and she started crying. And she's kind of, I can tell she's not somebody that cries really easily, but she really started crying. And I said, you don't have to be sad. I said, you did good. I said, you did good. And I had a good life, and I have a good life. And, you know, you it's okay. You did great. And now we have each other on top of it. So
it's not goodbye, it's see you later.
exactly. And we plan to go and visit her this summer, you know. And what makes the story so interesting is she said that everybody she knew about me. I was never a secret. She got pregnant when she was very young. She was, I think, like 20 or something. And given my birth father's lifestyle, she knew he proposed, and she knew that was not going to be the life that she wanted to raise me in. And so she tried to do it on her own, with her mother, though, saying that she would have no part of it, that if she did this, she was on her own, that she would not acknowledge me to the family, and she would not have anything to do with me. So her name is Debbie, is my birth mother's name. So Debbie said, okay. And she tried to do it by herself. She, you know, was moved out and tried to build a life for us. You know, I think it proved very difficult being a young mother by herself. You know, it sounds like we kind of moved around to different places and stuff, and she did the best she could. And finally, I think she said, she told her father, I want more for her. I want her to have a better life. She deserves a better life, and I'm going to go ahead and surrender her to a children's home for adoption. And it's funny because my adoptive parents said that my aunt, who worked at the children's home, had said that when my mother brought me in, she said, please make sure she goes to a family that is financially secure so that they can give her what she needs and they can really raise her well. And, you know, and it did, and it worked out. And, you know, I always, that was honestly one of the biggest questions I had, besides the medical history, was why 2 years was I with this person? And now I know, because she was on her own. She was told she was on her own.
Much. She said she loved so much.
Could you imagine? I mean, it's hard enough now at 20 years old, but back then, 20 years old, a single mother trying to support, you know. That's a lot of love.
Yeah. Wow. And so her younger sister, who is about, like 12 years younger. She has a younger sister and brother, but they're like 12 years younger. They weren't even really sure of my existence until they were older. And my Aunt Lisa, that I call her, she said at one point she was going to try to find me. And she told Debbie, hey, I think we should go find her. And Debbie said, I don't want to do that. I gave her up for a better life. I'm not going to barge in on her. And so she was kind of having the same thoughts about me that I was having about her. Right. And she said, I don't think that, I don't want to do that. And so my aunt said, so I honored her wishes, and I didn't, but we knew you were out there. And
did Debbie ever get married or have any kids?
No, none of them did. They grew up in, it sounds like it was kind of their parents were divorced, and it just sounds like it was a little bit of a rough family upbringing, you know, lifestyle and stuff. So I think they kind of were all just like, that's just not for us, you know. So none of them ever did get married or have children. And
How big
You
of a
know,
role does she play in your life now? Do you talk to her often?
which one? My aunt?
No, Debbie.
Oh, Debbie? I do. We speak yeah, we speak every few weeks, I'd say. So not all the time, but when we do, we catch up, you know. And it's really fun. It's so great to hear her voice and talk to her. And I speak to her sister also. And we're building a relationship, which has been really fun. And it's just been, the whole thing's just been a tailspin. And what was really great was this past Mother's Day getting to mail her a card
Oh.
and call her and wish her happy Mother's Day. And she said, you know, this day people would always say, oh, are you a mother? Happy Mother's Day. And she said, I'd always say, no, I'm not a mom. And I said, but you are. And she said, well, I didn't get the opportunity to. And I said, you know what? You did the most motherly love and
Absolutely.
you know, and selfless act that a mother could do for a child. And I said, so yeah, you know, you are. And now you can tell people that you talked to your daughter today on Mother's Day. You know, it was a really sweet conversation. And, you know, and she just said, she told everybody about me, and that she would just say, I am not going to go find her, but if she ever comes to find me, I will be here waiting.
Aw.
And she said to me when I did make that that very first phone call, when I actually talked to her, and she said, well, what took you so long? And I thought, well, why to make it so hard? You know, but it's just, everything about it is just great, you know. And I've gotten all kinds of information on my birth father, which I've been able to share with my half siblings. So I've been able to fill in a lot of stuff.
All 30 of them.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
and counting. It's like that movie, right?
Honestly,
and counting.
No, but it's true. We really do wonder. And so we're all talking about hopefully meeting up this summer. You know, and I thought, gosh, though, it's going to be really hard for us to just not all show up at his place, all holding hands and knocking on the door and going, hey, surprise, Dad. Here we are.
We'll come videotape that for you.
Right, exactly.
On the next episode of Lost and Found.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, and it's just so funny because apparently the oldest half sister that none of us have met or anything, apparently she did find him, and she did knock on his door, and he said it wasn't him. So there was that. But you know, it's just been just such an interesting story. And it's just been so fun to have Debbie fill in all of these pieces for me, you know, and to find out about her life and find out about his life. And it's all just been so surreal. And that's why I was like, you know, whatever I can do for people to say, hey, take the test, do it. You know, if you're anything like me and you're apprehensive and you're worried about putting it out there, but everything else just outweighed it. And now where I'm sitting now, I thought, why did I wait so long?
Have you ever tried reaching out to your biological father? Where are you at?
I have not. I'm tempted to, though. You know, now Debbie said that she knows where he lives, and she said that she has spoken with him. I guess she spoke with him as recently as a couple of years ago. And I said, are you going to tell him about me? She said, I'm tempted to go over and let him know that you're around. And I said, you know, I'm really curious what he would say. And I would really love to, I really just want to see him, because she's told me so many times I look like him. So I'm really curious.
Right. And time is of essence now.
Yeah, it is. And that's, you know, I'm still trying to bat around how I want to handle that, because I don't get the impression he's interested in meeting his children. You know, I don't know if he knows how many there are, you know, that he may not even know.
Yeah.
That there's, you know, more than the one that I know he knew of the one. Well, and he knew of me, of course. So I guess he knows of a couple.
Right. And, you know, we do have like a service that can help you with that. If you are nervous to make a phone call, you can contact us. We have a liaison service that can help you.
Oh, interesting.
Make contacts. So
yeah,
it may have started after you've got the information.
And I know when I completed everything, you guys were so great with the information that like you kind of give us like a little written guideline on like what you could say or something like that, you know. Because I am curious. I'm curious to hear about his musical history. I mean, it sounded really interesting, honestly. It sounded like he was in some really great bands and stuff. And I'm just so curious to hear that.
Do you have any music talent yourself?
I was just going to say, I really have no musical talent to speak of, you know, but it's funny. So Debbie, when she came to visit, my family was in awe because they said, we stood the same way. We had the same mannerisms. They just couldn't believe it. And we have this is so, I know it's probably means nothing, but we have the same taste in jewelry. It was the craziest thing. We were wearing like the same necklaces.
Weird stuff like that. I mean,
same type of bracelet. I don't know. I'm just like, wait, is that kind of a genetic thing? Like, is that, you know?
I've heard like we all put mayonnaise on our French fries or something like weird like that. Like
right.
Weird
you know, I was just kind of like, okay, that's really interesting, you know? Yeah. So just little things like that, little, you know, quirks that kind of come up. And, you know, it's just, yeah, the whole thing has just been really, really crazy. And while she was here, I did go and I made up a little small photo album of all of the major events in my life. So I like grade school, a couple grade school pictures, you know, college graduation pictures.
Did she have pictures from when your first 2 years?
She doesn't have very many because we moved around so much. She said she lost track.
And back then you didn't do it like we do now.
You know, and because I thought, darn, you know, she only had a couple. And she said, you know, just moving around and everything. And then I started thinking, I'm like, you know, and that's true. If you're like if you're like 20, 21, you're trying to raise a child, you're probably not really thinking about pictures. It probably costs a lot of money to do that. I was going to say,
remember back in the day, it would cost a lot of money to like take them
exactly. And I thought that probably really wasn't on her radar to document and take pictures. Now, I mean, you know, we all just pull our phone and snap, it's right there, you know. So there really
must be really neat for your kids to meet her too. You know, it's
yes, it was so neat, you know. And interesting fun fact, one of the pictures she has that she came across happened to be a picture of myself as a little baby, and they found it tucked in the back of her mother's wallet.
Oh, the mother that had nothing to do with her.
Yes.
Wow.
So that was interesting.
You're the only grandchild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's all the whole story is just so unbelievable. And I never dreamed I would be sitting here. I never dreamed, you guys, that I would be talking about my birth mother. I just had pretty much resigned to the fact that I was never going to know her. I was never going to know.
Thankfully, you took that step. You know how you said that she wasn't going to do it. So, you know, that's what I tell a lot of, you know, of my clients too. I was like, well, I mean, the worst that's going to happen is they reject you, but you not knowing also you're going to go back and forth in your head. Oh, well, they, you know, like I don't know. It's your story to know the truth of. So only you know what to do in your heart, really. But
wow. And it was just, you know, and it wasn't my lifelong friend that I had mentioned.
Right.
She got to meet her, and one of my other best friends got to meet her also, because I thought it was really important to me. And she met my adoptive family. They were so great. My brother and sister-in-law opened up their home to all of us and had a really nice meal for us. And my nieces and my nephew came over, and it was just such a neat culmination to just have all of it together. And bless her heart, she said to me afterwards, she said, every family member of yours that came in was nicer than the one before. And she said, I never knew a family could be so wonderful. And it was really something to hear. And I think it really validated her and the choice and the decision she made, because I know it wasn't easy. And, you know, her father, who we were living with at the time that she was going to take me to the children's home, when she came to him and said, it's time, I need to do this. He had remarried, and he said, well, we'll just adopt her. And she said, no, she's got to be in a family where she is loved by everybody, and there's still a person, or that doesn't feel that way, and I don't want her even around that. Yeah. And
that's courageous. That's really courageous to go talk to your dad like that.
Yes. So, and he said, well, then I'm driving you because you're not doing this alone. And he drove her, and that's kind of how it all played out, So, I mean, I really got the best of both worlds, and it's kind of like I tell my brother and stuff. I said, you'll always be my brother. And my mom, my adoptive father has since passed away, which is such a bummer because he's the one that wrote down the name, and he's not here to witness all of this. But I just still find it so fascinating that he thought to do that, somewhere in the back of his mind, he thought someday she may want to do this. And I want to give her this piece of the puzzle to help send her on her way.
That's so great that he...
And passed it on to his sister to make sure that it got kept in the family. And, but, and my mom will always be my mom that raised me and everything, but now I have this, and it's just, it really is. It is probably one of the best stories because I've read the comments of people that are struggling to find their birth families. I've watched some of these stories, and they're heartbreaking.
Yes.
And I kind of, if I can be kind of an example of that, they're not all sad, and some of them can have tears of joy behind them, to don't give up, because it really can, it can happen, and you can have 50 years of questions and 50 years of wondering, all answered just by trusting in the process and the people behind it. I just, with every bit of information that came out from the DNA Angels, I was always just in awe. I just couldn't even believe that this was happening. I truly just I can't believe it.
Well, it's our honor and privilege to be able to, as a genetic genealogist, sometimes I'll solve a tough case and I'll lay my head in bed at night and think, I made a pretty big difference in somebody's world today. So it's very gratifying for us too.
Good, because
thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. It's an incredible story. Please keep us updated. You have a client room, so if you're interested in our liaison service and you want someone to help with reaching out to your biological dad, then just send us a note and we can get that rolling for you.
I will. Thank you guys so much. You guys have changed my life.
So nice to talk to you, Vicki.
It's so nice to talk to you guys too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have you or someone you know had an unexpected discovery after taking an at-home DNA test? Perhaps you are adopted or a donor-conceived person? DNAngels is founded on the principle that it is a fundamental human right to know who our biological parents are. Our mission is to promote family connections by providing support, guidance, and expertise to individuals facing the complexities of non-paternal events, donor conception, or adoption. DNAngels, finding families one DNA strand at a time.
So as I talked about, we do have a giveaway, and in order to be entered into our drawing, what you need to do is hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave a comment down below, and you can be entered into a drawing where you can go on our website and pick one of the various books that we have on our website. We have NPE, adoptees, donor conceived. We have a you can see here. we have a bookstore. So make sure and do that so you could be entered into the giveaway. So this is the part where we normally do a funny obituary, but Laura told me she has a surprise for me. So I
got to give my husband credit for this one because I was looking for some obituaries, but he said, and it ended up being funny, why don't we talk about some weird things that are in wills? Because it's kind of like the same stream. So I actually found a handful handful of different things that are kind of funny. So I'm going to start with one. Do you know who Gene Roddenberry is, right? The creator of Star Trek.
I have no idea.
You probably know. Oh my gosh. Okay.
No idea.
Star Trek. And their tagline is to boldly go where no man has gone before. And when Gene Roddenberry died, he instructed that his ashes be scattered via a satellite orbiting the Earth. And that was like way back in 1977. So that must have cost a lot of, I mean, I'm sure it would still cost a lot now. So I was like, it's a little weird for your wills. And you always hear like tons of wills where people leave money to their dogs and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So one of them, do you remember Leona Hensley, the hometown lady? So she donated, she had a ton of money, $35 million to charities. And she donated to each of her grandsons $5 million, but only if they visited their dad's grave every year. But she left $12 million to her dog.
Oh my gosh.
12 million.
I was born in the wrong family.
Yeah, me too. So, all right, here's another couple funny ones here. My dog is still pushing the screen down.
That's okay.
His name is Mark Greenwald, and he's the executive editor of Captain America and Iron Man and a bunch of other Marvel comics. This is kind of weird. When he died, he had his ashes mixed into the ink that they used to print the comic books, and they did it.
Wow.
I don't think I would be touching those comic books. And then I went and looked up a couple really like old ones. There's this one man, he's not famous. His name is S. Sanborn, and he was like an American hat maker back in 1871. So he was pretty wealthy because, back in the day, they all wore hats and everything. So he left his body to science at Harvard University, but he had a stipulation that they take his skin and make 2 drums and give them to his friends. And then
why would you even
supposed to be playing the drums at a certain time of year and stuff? Oh, like who's gonna want to touch skin drums? But
very interesting.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other ones. Like the founder of Pringles, his name is Fred Bauer, and he was cremated and put into Pringle jars and buried in the jars. And I'll leave on one weird one and then one nice one. A weird one. There's this man, and he died in 1891. I'm sorry. His name was John Bowman, and he was totally obsessed with reincarnation. Like thinking he came from Egypt back in the day and all that kind of stuff. He left a trust, and this is 1891, of $50,000. So that's a ton of money. To his afterlife, and for 60 years his estate every day put out dinner for him and his family every day for 60 years until they ran out of money. Weird. And then the last one I have is a sweet one. Do you remember the comedian Jack Benny from back in the day? So he left a bunch of money to a local florist because he was married for like 47 years or something by the time he died. And the florist he had deliver flowers every single day to his wife.
Every single day.
Every single day. Until she died. I know. So I just thought those were, a little twist on the,
Yeah, a little different. I like it.
So I thought they were pretty interesting.
Thank you. That's really neat. Yeah. I think this is going to conclude our episode. It's been a joy to have you on, Laura, as my co-host.
Heidi.
I can't wait till we get to see each other in person again soon.
I know. Hopefully very soon.
Very good. Okay. Well, don't forget to hit that subscribe, like, and make a comment. And we will catch you on the next show. Bye.